Yeah, so there we're on YouTube now. I'm going to record now. Just a moment. Okay, so good evening again. Thank you for registering and actively participating in this workshop. You know, the way workshops go, it's not supposed to just be one directional. So there's going to be a time that's going to be interactive. And I want to say that please, if you want to speak, kindly unmute yourself or indicate first by the raise of hands. Those indicators are there if you're familiar with Zoom. You see where it is reactions. There's a place for raising of hands, and the thumbs up is say you agree with what is being said. So there'll be a time to interact and there'll be time to and ask questions. And I want to say also that if you need me to go over something or at a point, please do not hesitate to let me know. And I'll advise you on mute, especially when I start sharing my screen, because I will not be able to see you once my screen is shared. All right, so the topic is system dynamics, and I will start sharing my screen right away. Just a moment, please. Yeah, okay, there we go. Just a moment. Can you see the screen? If you can see your thumbs up, you can see, okay. All right, so yeah, so this is it's about system dynamics. And before we go on, does anybody want to meet themselves and tell them what they know about systems? What do you know about systems? Anybody, what you know about systems? Anybody want to say anything they know about systems? Nobody knows anything. Okay, yes, go ahead, Pastor Simke.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I understand system. I hope I'm being heard clearly.
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really, really glad to be part of this meeting this evening. And so from my understanding, sir, system is simply a kind of structure, a kind of procedural process in which information is relayed or passed across to everyone who is part of that unit of a body. So that's my understanding, my opinion about systems.
That was awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, you use two keywords here, structure and procedural process, by which information is being disseminated. Yeah. And I can see hands up, Mr. David Emmanuel.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I have two definitions of the system. The first one is a set of elements or components that are organized for a common purpose. While the second one is a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done.
You can see one comes from the physical side, which talks about components interacting together towards a common purpose or goal. And then the other talks about, policies and procedures by which something is done. And that's fantastic. And you guys should come and take over the job of facilitator. You're prepared. There's a step I forgot, and I think it's necessary, so that we can, it's deliberately that is cut short, and you're going to unmute yourselves, and quickly, just in 1 minute, tell us something about your name, what you do, your position, and something you want somebody to know about you. Something that you think some people, I know we might be familiar with some of ourselves, but something you think people may not really know about you that distinguishes you. Yes, who's going to start?
Okay.
Who will introduce themselves?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Thank you.
All right. My name is Ajamolaya Ayola Sunday.
Yeah.
I'm CEO of Timoni Garments and Multimiders Nigeria Limited. I'm into branding and fashion. Also, I'm a head of finance in Lemon City Church and the mission director. I love business, and that is what I do for a living.
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aya Jamla, also Deacon in Church. Thank you for that. Yes, who wants to go next? Speak about ourselves, introduce yourself briefly, what you do, and something you want us to know about you. I'm going to start pointing to, okay, David Emmanuel, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see you.
Yeah, my name is David Emmanuel. I'm the CEO of Devmo Limited. I'm into oil and gas consultancy, and I'm a music minister in Lemon City Church.
Wow. Oil and gas, CEO, and music minister. That's a good combination. Okay. All right. Pastor Senke, your hands are up.
Thank you. My name is Saint K. Ifan. I am a pastor and assistant resident pastor, Lemon City Church, Warimpa, Abuja. Beside the ministry, I do a few side works, which includes realtor. I'm into writing. I love writing, as a matter of fact. I'm into educational research and as well an educationist. So these are just a little about Saint K. Ifa. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Writer, realtor, pastor, educator.
Yes,
thank you. Nice. All right. Yes. Who wants to go next? Why is there nobody talking? I'm going to point to, Brother Bobby, tell us about yourself. Can we hear you? Brother, we can't hear you. Okay, looks like your audio is not connected. So while he's trying to get himself set, who else wants to go? Bro Vincent, can you go ahead?
Hi, good evening, good morning, everybody. My name is Vincent Egoro, and I work in the international development sector, and I am a senior specialist on organizational development and institutional capacity strengthening for Caritas Nigeria, an NGO based in Nigeria. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. Okay, all right. So yeah, who else is next? I can see that. Okay, the one or two of us are still in the office. They can't unmute themselves. That's understood. Yeah, who else wants to introduce themselves? Anybody else here?
Okay, sir.
Okay, go ahead, Daddy.
Good evening and good morning, good day, everybody. My name is Dodi Kanu Etan. By the grace of God, and I'm an admin, Lemon City Church, Abuja. By profession, I'm a statistician. I'm also a certified project manager. I do scribing and painting as a practice now. Praise God.
Okay. Man of many trades as scribing and painting, project management, administrator at the office. That's man of many sides. That's good. Nice to meet you. Yeah. Anybody else who hasn't gone? I know that Deaconess Ejoko is in the office. She can't speak now. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Brother Leva, your hands out.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
I am Levi David Mbajako by name. By the special grace of God, I'm a public servant. I work with the University of Calabar. I'm also a minister in Hemon City Church, Calabar, Maine. I am the principal of Hemon City Academy Church, Calabar, Maine, and also the secretary of Men's Fellowship in Hemon City Church, Calabar, Maine.
A lot of layers.
I am an administrator by profession. I think that's a few things about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir, for that introduction. Many layers there, administrator, public servant, secretary of Men's Fellowship, president here. That's powerful. Yeah. Okay. Gordon, may you and Brother Gordon go ahead, introduce yourself.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you very much, Pastor, for this opportunity. I am Gordon Emenyonu. I so much to talk about, but in one word, I am a procurement head. I'm a procurement head in cosmetics for Prince Ebeano Supermarkets. Minister of the Gospel in Music here in Lagos.
That's very good. Thank you. Powerful. That's good. Procurement manager there in a major supermarket there in the island in Lagos, and also a music minister. You can see combination of layers. Who has not gone? I think there's still 3 people who haven't gone here, or 4.
I'm ready to go, sir, Daddy.
Okay, go ahead, Sister Confidence.
Okay, my name is Confidence Joe Amani. I am working in the public health space as a strategic information optimizer with Japaigo Nigeria in Cross River States, supporting the monitoring, evaluation, and learning activities across the states here in Cross River. And also, I am a minister with Goshen Assembly, Calabar South, and also the choir director.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I mean, being involved in NGO in a strategic position, and reaching out to the people up there in Northern Cross River State, and also a minister in the church. Interesting. Thank you. Yeah, who needs to go? We still have Joseph, we still have Dr. Tim Fon, who has not gone, Architect Bumi. Who's going to go next out of the 3 of you? Or they are in a space where there's
good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, anyhow. My name is Greatness Ofyom. I am into law, not yet round up anyway, but I have a school also, which others are coming up still in that line of education. And we are also into business, I and my wife. And I am a minister in Hemon City Church, also a mission director of Goshen Assembly by the special grace of God. And then, yes, I'm in Hemon City Church, Goshen. Thank you, sir.
Powerful. I didn't know you were doing law there. Congratulations. Well done, sir. More grace, and like I said, we know about things about ourselves. Also, they run their own school, so they are proprietor and proprietress, and they run business, him and his wife. That's powerful. The mission director at Goshen Assembly. Interesting. Yeah. Joseph Ediege, I saw you getting ready before. Yeah. So.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity, sir. My name is Joseph Ediege. I'm a serial entrepreneur with major specialties in supporting and taking advantage of business opportunities. I'm an ardent believer of system development. Thank you.
All right. I like that. Ardent believer of system development. And did you say serial entrepreneur? That's interesting. I like that.
Yes, sir. Serial entrepreneur.
Wow. That's interesting. Okay, yeah. Dr. Ntimfon, would you mind introducing yourself before we continue? I think yourself and architect Bumi Ajamalaya are the people left.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening,
Good evening.
Pastor.
Good evening.
Okay, my name is Etim Fon Ndon. I'm the accountant for Uyo Capital City Development Authority and a minister in Hermon City Church, Uyo. Thank you.
The one that she just mentioned briefly, she didn't say she's Dr. PhD holder, chartered accountant. The accountant you development. That's one. If you're looking for premier cities in Nigeria, when you take Lagos, you'll be thinking of you next. Yes, that's the truth. Let's be very honest. Nice to have you on this platform. And then Architect, you're welcome. Architect Bumi, are you able to speak? Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Hello, good evening.
We can hear you.
Good evening.
I'm Olubumi Ajamolaya. I'm a practicing architect and I'm also into construction in Cross River State and within Nigeria. I'm also a managing partner with my husband in the garment factory in Calabar, Timoni Garments. I'm a minister in Hermon City Church, Calabar, Maine, and also a children and teens church evangelist. I think basically that's what I do. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Woman of many strides, architect, project manager into construction, into business with her husband in the garments industry sector of Cross River State. That's powerful. And then into children's ministry, apart from being a mother and a wife. Praise God. Awesome. Thank you. Also, I'm going to share my screen now. I believe that you all know me, but I am Afolarin Ogwinka, by God's grace, the senior pastor, head pastor, Hermon City International Churches, and now a student of leadership. And so that's one reason why we're going through this. And to those of you that don't know, I'm running my doctoral studies in strategic leadership with concentration in strategic foresight. So this is one of the requirements. And so thank you so much for being how will I call it, a platform to exercise what we are learning. Thank you. God bless. So I'm going to share my screen in just a moment and we'll start. All right. Okay. So, to those who just came, we had some fantastic definitions of systems. Someone said that systems is, components working together towards one purpose, also policies and procedures that are tailored towards a purpose, they enhance, they interconnect, set aside regulations, that are, network together to arrive at a purpose. And, at the heart of systems is organizational effectiveness. That's what systems is all about. I mean, why you want to have a system is so that your organization can be effective, not just efficient, but effective. Effective is talking about, managing your resources, in the best way possible, maximizing the resources at your disposal and making sure that they interconnect, interwoven rather, to produce the best output, and that's what it's about, if we look at Nigeria as a case study, we find out that we're a country that, lacks systems. That's why, one of the things that plague our country is lack of continuity, because when you see systems, that systems are set in place so that there can be continuity. I want to say this, that God in his wisdom, when he created, the first thing God created was that God created systems. If you read Genesis chapter 1, in fact, chapter 1 is the book of systems. He said, let there be light. That was a system of revelation and insight, letting us know that before you start something, you must be well versed in it. You must have knowledge. Light is symbolic for knowledge. Then he went in to separate the waters above and the waters below. He set up the hydrological system. Nothing exists without water. Even we as human beings, we are told that we largely consider water. When you lack water, you're going to die. That's why people who don't get water dehydrate and die. You may live without food for long, but you cannot live without water for long. So God set a hydrological system in place. He said the water above the heavens and the waters below. So he set systems, and he set, the vegetational system, and all he was doing, then he eventually set the human system. And when he had set all the systems, the scripture says that he rested. He went to rest. And that's what, when you put the systems in place, what happens is that you are able to rest. When you put effective systems in place, that such a person is able to go to rest. That's the whole intention. One thing that effective system does, when you understand systems, is that it takes stress out of your rest. And that's important. And the objectives of today's workshop is to provide an overview of how system dynamics works in business and organization. So it's just very elementary, but my hope is that, and my desire is that, even though we're going to talk on very elementary things, we'll be able to, pick up valuable lessons that we can apply in our lives, because as we're introducing ourselves, some of us are CEOs, businesses, we have organizations, and we lead in church, one capacity or the other. All these things are systems, and if we can pick some of this insight, it has a way of enhancing our effectiveness, as leaders. So we want to provide an overview of how system dynamics works in business and organization. We also want to illustrate the importance of system dynamics, and we're going to use a very interesting story. It's called the Cat and Borneo story, and it's going to be the predominant part of this workshop. Use as a workshop. Please mute yourself if you haven't, please. Please mute yourself. I don't know who that is. I can't see you. Everybody should please kindly mute themselves. Thank you. Those are one of the ground rules. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so then eventually, like I said, to help provide applicable lessons from this whole thing. All right. Okay. The founder of System Dynamics is known by the name, his name is Professor J.W. Forrester, and he's founded this whole concept of system dynamics, way back in the mid 20th century. And, he was a professor at that's MIT in Boston, and he laid a lot of foundation in it, even though today system dynamics has not become a full-fledged research base, but it's being used. It's still being used, and people are still developing it. Eventually, hopefully, as things progress, it will grow into a whole, I like call it career that people can venture into, just like people go into strategic leadership, people go into civil engineering. We're looking to see how it can really become an entire field of its own. But his discovery of this concept has gone a long way to help organizations, communities, cities, and nations run effectively. So he's been credited with this, with the whole concept of system dynamics. So systems are everywhere, and that's important for us to know. Systems are everywhere. They occur in nature. As I was talking earlier, God created, the hydrological system. That's how water evaporates from the earth to the clouds, forms clouds, and then eventually they pour through rain. And when of course, when the clouds are saturated and through some pressure effects, rain falls down, and again the cycle continues. That's the hydrological system, how water is evaporated from the earth, forms clouds, clouds get saturated and then they pour. Even the Bible says when the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. So that's a system. Society, there are systems in the society. There's a political system. Every country has political. Nigeria is in verge of electing a new president. And we have, I'm sure many of us, if I open the floor now to talk about political system, we will see a lot of things that are wrong. Maybe just to say something, one thing I just discovered, recently, maybe some of you may have discovered it more, much earlier than now. I said that, those of us that want to change Nigeria, we always encourage people to get your PVC. But I found out that PVC is not even enough, because the PVC, the game is late. You are late to the game when you go for PVC. We need to see how we can infiltrate a party or develop a party that is credible enough to win an election, to have structure. Do you understand? Because, by the time we wait for PVC, they have already screened some candidates. Like now, we are limited to the 14 candidates in those 14 parties. There's no other 15 candidates. Do you understand? And some people who are called delegates, they elected that. So it's either we infiltrate parties that basically go into all the world and make disciples. So we have to go into all the parties and make disciples for there to be change. So that's a system failure there, because we want things to change, but we keep doing the same thing the same way, and things will not change. So there are systems in society, there are systems in business, we talk about businessman here, just flow chart, supply and demand affect price. That's a system, so there are systems everywhere you turn to, their system. Even this laptop or phone you're using is operating a system, data system. You understand? You buy data, it loads on your phone, and then you use it. As it downloads, as you're using it, you're getting information. And using information, when it's depleted, you have to restore it. If you don't restore it, you get knocked off this workshop. So that's the data system, through which our mobile phones operate to get information, and we can communicate. I'm all the way here in North America, and you guys are over there in Africa, and we can communicate through the data system. So everything operates. So there's a government system. And also in church, there's a religious system. There's religion system. Every church runs its own. There's a way the Catholic Church runs. Brother Vincent will be able to tell us a lot about it, why they stand as one of the most credible, long-lasting, solid organizations, because they have systems that have run for hundreds of years. So that's that. So we have a system of worship. Even Hemon City Church has a system of worship. There's a way we worship that is peculiar to us. Being maybe Pentecostal and charismatic, there are some ways that are peculiar to us. It's a system. Even what we call orthodox, we have become also, the issue that everybody in a way is orthodox, because once you have a system running, you are orthodox. You are used to a certain way. The only thing where there has to be a change is that we keep adapting to the environment as the environment changes. But it also depends on how the system is designed. So there are systems everywhere. So there are systems everywhere. So I want to say this, that everything is a system and belongs within a system. For instance, we're talking to just now about an engineer. Who is, okay, let's look at it. Some of us say they are businessman, deacon in church, and so there are different layers that we are all involved in. So and all these layers impact to who we are. For instance, I'm a pastor, I'm doing my doctoral program, I work as HR, and I live in America. All those are, even me as a person, I'm a system, because just me as a person, as an individual person, there's a lot of systems that make me up. There's a way my mind works. There's a way my nutritional, we have a nutritional system. Everything within me works. My respiratory system, that's one component, and is connected to the fact that, okay, I'm a pastor, I work as HR, I'm a doctoral student, I live in America. All those things affect me and make me who I am. You know, in Hemon City Church, it talks about celebrating uniqueness. You know, one thing that makes us unique is the fact that we have layers of systems that we're all connected to, even the family background, the systems, the family we belong to, the extended family, they impact our system, where we live, where we come from, all those things, social system, they impact us. So they are layers. So everything is a system and belongs within the system. That means nothing entirely exists alone. Nothing exists alone. Everything belongs to a system. You know, it's only God that we can say is self-existence. Even God has submitted himself to systems. Even though he's self-existing God, he can dwell all by himself, but he has submitted himself to systems. By creating the earth, there's a connection, because with him creating the earth shows that there's a connection. He now is connected to the earth system. You know, that's why when Jesus was teaching himself to pray, say, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." All right, so that's important to know. Behavior of a system is determined by its structure. You know, that's what Professor Forrester said. Behavior of a system is determined by its structure. You know, and I think it was Pastor Senke that mentioned the word structure when you talk of systems. So this is a very, in fact, if you don't go with anything, go with this knowledge today, that systems behave according to their structure. So if we are going to change the way a system behaves or the outcome of a system, then we have to be deliberate about the structure of the system. And the structure talks about the interconnecting parts of that system, the framework, what makes up the system. So every system, you know, the behavior of a system is determined by structure. So now, going back to the initial slide, we talked about that everybody, you know, we all belong to layers of system. For instance, someone is a minister in church, is a business person, is a lawyer, you know, and all those are layers that influence a person's behavior, because all those layers are structures. Okay, you are a lawyer, you know, you are a business person, you are a proprietor, all that connects together to make you a different, how you respond, how you behave is different from somebody who is maybe a lawyer and a Muslim, you know, and comes from Saudi Arabia. All those things affect. So if the person, if the person is going to change the way he or she behaves, then the person has to be deliberate about changing the structure, the interconnecting parts. And this is very important. You know, if you don't go with anything, please go with this understanding. You know, fundamental principle of system number one, systems exhibit systemness. Now, what does systemness mean? It just means that, you know, systemness talks about systems depend on other systems. That's all it means. Systemness means responsiveness to systems. So every system is responsive to other systems, probably not one, maybe more than one, sometimes multitudes of systems. You know, so we need to know that. And that's why it's important that when we make a decision, we must remember that that system we are deciding upon is not on its own. It's connected to other systems. So the reason why we find the solutions we bring not solving the problem is because many times we forget that that problem of that system we're trying to address its problem is connected to other things. For instance, let's say I am bleeding in my finger now, and all I think of, okay, I want to stop the bleed. I just go ahead and tie the finger very hard. You must remember that after a while, I'm going to get sore on that, even though the bleeding has stopped. But is that the best way to address it? You're going to cause a build-up on my other finger. So you have stopped the build, but you have created another problem because you're forgetting that that blood that is flowing is connected to a flowing blood system. My heart is pumping blood. So you're going to build up pressure because you have caught those things. So we must, so as somebody who understands systems will know that, oh, whatever I'm doing, I need to find out why is the hand I'm bleeding and ask some key questions. before solving problem. And one of the key questions, and those key questions should be informed, and what should inform those key questions rather is the fact that systems are interrelated. That's key. Systems are interrelated, so they exhibit systemness. Another fundamental principle of systems is that systems exist in structural and functional hierarchies. For instance, now, someone can be a lawyer, a minister, mission director, businessman. Sorry, brother, greatness. I'm using it because you are great. I'm using a story, so use all those layers, but the issue is that somebody may have the same trait, but law may not be the most important thing. It may be being a mission director or maybe being the proprietor of the school. So, but the systems, they exist in structural and functional hierarchies. So depending on the level of hierarchy, it influences the unique behavior of that system. And that's important to note. Another fundamental principle of systems. Systems are dynamic on multiple time scales. They are dynamic on multiple time scales. So one thing is that they change over time. That's what it means. So the fact that the system is behaving this way now does not mean it's going to behave that way tomorrow. Let me just, we're going to talk about this later, but I was talking with someone and and I said, I realized something about Hemon City Church. We started 18 years ago. When we were 18 years ago, the average age of the church membership was closer to 20. Somebody who is closer to 20 averagely has more time for himself, is likely not married, does not have children to worry about. And since he or she is most likely single, they have more focus. They can go to church, come back late. Nobody's going to knock on the door, say, where were you? You have not done this, you have not done this. So the commitment was higher. But as the church began to grow, the average age 18 years later is closer to 40 than 20. Now, what people do closer to 40 is different, is fundamentally different from what people do closer to 20. The time people closer to 40 have, now they are thinking of children, they're married, they have spouses to take care of, they have children to take care of, they have school fees to pay, so their resources is not, has a lot of overheads as compared to when somebody is closer to 20. So, but what we do, or what I have been doing, is that we fight this. We say, why these people not committed? They're not this. We're forgotten that people have changed over time. That's what it says, that systems are dynamic over multiple time scales. So somebody who's a systems analyzer will say, what can we do to ensure consistent effectiveness, commitment of members, rather than, trying to expect the system to behave as it behaved 18 years ago, because there's been dynamism over years. We are the ones that prayed that the singles should get married. Them getting married has created other problems, because now they have to take care, and now they don't have time. They have to take care of spouses, they have to take care of children. You understand? So all those things create. So even the Bible says that, Paul was advised, don't marry, but if you marry, know that you're going to have a lot of responsibilities. That's what Paul says, and you will not have enough time to serve God as someone who is single. He said it's there in Corinthians. So these things are important. So fundamental principle. Another fundamental principle of systems is that systems evolve by direct or indirect action. Sometimes that is, they change, they transform. Sometimes by something you do deliberately, and by something you don't know, you didn't even intend. You had good intention, but it turned out bad. So sometimes they evolve and they change, because something, when there's an input into the system, it will bring result. Even the Bible says God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, he shall reap. And the issue is that what you sow, whether it's intentional or not, once you sow it, you reap it. Someone said you have the freedom to decide your decision, make your decision, freedom to make your decision, but you don't have the freedom of the consequences of that decision, because those consequences come with the decisions that we made. That's how systems work. There are some direct and there's indirect action. Yeah. Okay. So patterns of behavior of system, behavioral mode. These are just patterns, the behavioral mode of system, the path of dependence, the way systems behave. They just set a mode for them. So sometimes a system can just be in a particular way, as it was in the beginning, so is now, forevermore shall be. It's just flat, steady. Then some systems are path dependent, depending on the path it goes through is the way to respond. Depending on, for instance, like weather changes. So, for instance, like political changes. Some companies may change. Now, for instance, let's say in 2023, when we do the election, PDP takes over. It's going to affect some business. Some businesses will close because it's politically dependent. So it's path dependent sometimes, then smoothing. Sometimes some systems just smooth themselves out over time, like two rough surfaces hitting themselves and rubbing on themselves. After some time, they smooth out themselves. Sometimes some systems are like that. Some systems are repetitive. They're like the clock. They just keep going, remember those clocks that we used to wind, just steady state behavior, and like the quartz watch that we have now, just steady state behavior. So systems, those are the way they behave in different ways, All right. Yeah. So nature of system structure, the systems are structured to give feedback, and that's important. They are structured to give feedback. You just need to know how to listen to the systems, observe. One key thing about anybody that wants to develop system thinking, you have to be very observant. Have you noticed that the Bible says, be quick to listen, but slow to speak? Even God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means he expects us to concentrate more on observing. We observe with our eyes, with our ears, with our senses, observe, because systems are giving feedback. If we observe, like if we observe earlier, we would have known that the system is giving feedback instead of fighting the system. And, one thing about us faith-based, we Christians, is that we believe that everything can be solved by prayer. Now, don't get me wrong, there's power in prayer, but there's a place for work. Even Jesus said, watch and pray. So that means that's important. He didn't say pray and watch, say watch, observe and pray. So there's a place for observing. You have to observe, study, so that you can know how to pray effectively. You have to observe and pray. No wonder, look at Elijah when he prayed for rain, he sent someone to observe and he kept praying, observe and pray. So when you observe, he knew there was time, when the cloud appeared, he knew it was time for him to stop praying. So watch and pray. So if he was not observing, he could have been praying forever or could have stopped before he was supposed to stop. So that's important. That's our feedback, and then connections are very important. Systems exist in connection, variable relationships. That means the relationships within systems, they change over time. Like I told you, look, today you are single. By the time you get married, the way you're going to behave is going to change. Please mute yourself. The way you're going to behave is going to change, and that's important. And then of course, the system exists in different models. That's important. Okay, sorry, I went back. Okay, this is an example of a simple system. Population. You can see births and you can see deaths. The more births, what happens to the population? The population increases. The more deaths, what happens to the population? The population reduces. So it works in loops. So and so here, as people are born, it reinforces the population. So this is known as an R loop, a reinforcing loop, because some are born, and then, the more people are born, more people are added to the population, the more people die, people are, the population reduces. So the death, the death rate there is symbolic for balance. It balances out the population. As people are born, they balance out. When China wanted to regulate their their growing population was concerning and alarming, they regulated and said nobody should have more than one child in China. It became a law. You can't have more than one child. It was a law in China because they had to control the rate of birth. In China, have you noticed Chinese people, they even live long, they were not dying young. So it was becoming a concern. The population were exploding. So they had to use the birth control to reduce, because people were not there. You can't go and kill people.
Does not know how to on the generator.
Praise God. Who is that, please? Okay, sorry about that. All right, so as I was saying, so this is a simple loop. You reinforce it, births and deaths balances out the population. And that's how systems work. As one is being reinforced, one balances. Look at demand and supply, affects price. When the demand goes up, what happens to the price? The price goes up because the price, because if the price doesn't go up, you won't have, after some time, supply will be affected. And if the price doesn't go up, once there's nothing again, the supply will go down. So to mitigate that, business people, when they notice demand is going up, they raise the price to maximize profit, and when they see there's a lot of profit, they increase the supply into the market because they're getting profit. But when the danger about the supply is that when supply increases, it shows that there's a lot in the market again, the price will come down. And what will happen? The demand will increase again, and then supply again will go up. So you can see how the forces of supply and demand, they affect the price of a commodity in the market. So those are just elementary facets of systems, as it were. Okay, look at this picture. Can anybody unmute themselves and see, what do you understand by this picture? Does anybody want to say? I just need two people to quickly make a comment about this picture. Two people. Anybody? Any two people that want to say anything about this picture? Can we see the picture? Okay, go ahead, David. I can see your hands up.
Yeah, I think there's a hole in the front part of the boat, okay, and it affected everybody in the boat, and the boat is sinking, and the sinking of the boat is affecting everyone. So everyone is unsafe at the moment.
Okay, but do you think everybody in that boat thinks the same way you are thinking? Okay, Pastor Cynthia.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In fact,
okay,
the guys up there are saying, or they are feeling they are secured, that the hole is not close to where they are. But in the real sense of it, it's only a matter of time it's going to sink everybody, So what affects one affects all invariably. That's what I could deduce from there.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get this thing back to where it was. Oh God. Just a minute, please. All right. Anyway, just a moment, please. I'm going to stop this sharing and get back. Okay, I'm going to share the screen again. Sorry, I just lost that. Just give me a moment, please. Okay, yep, there we go. Okay, yep, all right. Okay, yeah, so sorry, the hands were up right now. I saw just I think, Joseph, you're correct. I mean, we could see here that the people on top of that boat thought that they are not involved, but they are very wrong. Even though the hold is not on their end, but if these people cannot take this water out, that whole boat is going under, and that's the way the earth is. You can say, okay, the war in Ukraine doesn't affect you. You are not close to Ukraine. The people are dying there, but if it is not handled well, the impact of the war in Ukraine is going to affect everybody in the entire world. It's already affecting us in America. The gas prices are the highest it has been in years. In the history of America, the price of petrol is the highest it has ever been. Already even the price of bread is going to go up, here in America, because a good chunk of the wheat that the world receives is from Ukraine. Yeah, and Dr. Etimfon, your hands were up. You want to say something?
Okay, so that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it affects us, in different ways. And Pastor Senke, you wanted to say something?
Okay. You've said part of it, but another thing I want to point out is this. There are two characters we see in the picture. One character, the two men are busy scoping out what supposedly is a harm or injurious to the aim of the organization. I want to believe that this boat represents an organization or a company or group of individuals who are driving at a particular target. And so the other two are reluctant. They feel that how do I put it? There is a lack of commitment on their part. Their assumption is that they don't want to get dirty over a messy situation. And so rather than getting involved and getting themselves messy in the process. Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Cool. Yeah, because we were losing you. You are going in and out. So can you make it very brief so that we can move on? Yeah.
Yeah, there are two characters. There are two characters because the boat to me represents an organization that is driving at a destination. And so two are committed in scooping out what supposedly appears to be a threat that was about wrecking the organization. And so the other two were not committed. They rather see themselves as staying away from a messed up situation in order not to get involved in the situation. And so by trying to exonerate themselves, they are actually helping to worsen the situation, the matter. If only they can join the other two to scoop out the mess, they would be safe and still arrive at their destination.
Okay, yeah. So that's very important. The fact that everything we do is interconnected with each other. We can say, well, I'm not in the choir department. If it's not, things are not going well in the choir department, it's going to still affect the entire church. Oh, I'm not a politician. It's going to affect that. We're going to have to move on. Sorry. And we will still have time to interact later. So we're going to move to the next slide now. Because that's why I said just two people to talk, and we've exceeded that number. So we're going to watch a short video now, and let's just.
In the 1950s, the Dayak people of Borneo, an island in Southeast Asia, were suffering from an outbreak of malaria. So they called the World Health Organization for help. The World Health Organization had a ready-made solution, which was to spray copious amounts of DDT around the island. With the application of DDT, the mosquitoes that carried the malaria were knocked down, and so was the malaria. There were some interesting side effects, though. The first was that the roofs of people's houses began to collapse on their heads. Turns out the DDT not only killed off the malaria-carrying mosquitoes, but it also killed a species of parasitic wasp that had controlled a population of thatch-eating caterpillars. Thatch being what the roofs of the Dayak people's homes were made from. Without the wasps, the caterpillars multiplied and flourished and began munching their way through the villagers' roofs. That was just the beginning. The DDT affected a lot of the island's other insects, which were eaten by the resident population of small lizards called geckos. The biological half-life of DDT is around 8 years, so animals like geckos do not metabolize it very fast. It stays in their system for a long time. Over time, the geckos began to accumulate pretty high levels of DDT, and while they tolerated the DDT fairly well, the island's resident cats, which dined on the geckos, did not. The cats ate the geckos, and the DDT contained in the geckos killed cats. With the cats gone, the island's population of rats came out to play. We all know what happens when rats multiply and flourish. Pretty soon, the Dayak people were back on the phone to the World Health Organization, only this time it wasn't malaria that was the problem. It was the plague and the destruction of their grain stores, both of which were caused by the overpopulation of rats. This time, though, the World Health Organization didn't have a ready-made solution and had to invent one. What did they do? They decided to parachute live cats into Borneo. Operation Cat Drop occurred courtesy of the Royal Air Force and eventually stabilized the situation.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so we're going to come to that video later, but these are just some 6 quick benefits of understanding system dynamics. Number one, it's the mindset to understand how things work. When you understand system dynamics, you understand how things work. You're able to interpret relational interaction within a structure. You also can perceive connections in any situation. You can, when you have that on the system thinking mindset, you know how you identify how things are connected in different situations. You also, number 4, explore the consequences of actions now. So you are not just looking at solving solution. You ask yourself, this solution, what will be the consequence? Like in that short video we watched, you find out that they were trying to deal with the outbreak of malaria, the mosquitoes, but they didn't ask what would be the consequence of the application of that insecticide called DDT. So that's a bit. Somebody who thinks in systems, you explore the consequences of actions. You ask yourself, this project we want to do, this unit we want to start in church, what would be the consequence? Like I was sharing the issue of us, having a youthful church, we're training them for marriage, praying for them to get married. There are some aftermath outcomes that come with that, but systems make you think of the consequences or the outcomes of actions. And then 5, reveal causal relationships. So causal, it reveals causal relationship among variables. Cause and effect, that's what it means. There are relationship that, if this one, if I input this, if this is the cause, this is the outcome. So cause and effect. This is the cause and this is the effect of that cause. So we look at those relationships. That's what system dynamics, understanding it helps, it provides such benefits. And then 6, it helps us anticipate downstream consequences. In the field of strategic foresight, we don't like to use the word predict. We like to use the word anticipate. So when you have an understanding of system dynamics, you can anticipate what is likely to happen. Remember what I said, you shouldn't forget that the structure of a system determines its behavior over time. So when you can understand, when you study and can have a grasp of a structure of something, you know how it's going to be. That's why, when somebody is ill, one of the first things the doctor does is to do a test. Why is the test? The doctor wants to examine the structures, the structure of the human body, the systems that govern. So when they look at the different systems, the blood system, the urinary system, all those components look together, the doctor can decode how the body is going to behave. And from there, dictate, this person is ill in that area. This person is ill in that area, and can now know how to attack the situation. Instead of just, you're hot, go and take Panadol. Or you're hot, go and take malaria. It may not be malaria. It could be something entirely different. So understanding the way the systems interrelate can help the doctor prescribe, a solution to that health situation. So I hope we're getting a grasp of this whole thing. Yeah. So, okay, am I going backwards? Okay, sorry. Okay, so we're going to watch the video again, and this time we're going to use it to interact and talk. This is a time where we're going to talk, but let me just give the create certain agenda. These are instructions. We're going to conduct an issue cluster. We're not going to break into different groups. We're going to form one group, all of us on this workshop now. We're going to look into the different, we're going to look at that video again, and we're going to dissect it, define the issue scope, set boundaries, and then we're going to look at identify direct positive consequences of actions taken using that video, and maybe any other issue that we might be experiencing. Since we are all leaders in our different organizations and companies, we'll be able to say, okay, I didn't know this was this ended up to be that one, then identify direct negative consequences, then also identify indirect positive consequences, and also identify indirect negative consequences. So we're going to break into that. If you have your pen, it's the time to write these things, because they're going to guide our discussion. Conduct issues cluster. We're going to pick up what are the issues in that video, then what are the scope of the issue. Then let's look at the direct positive consequences of the issue. Then what are the direct negative consequences? Then what are the indirect positive consequences, and what are the indirect negative consequences? So we're going to look at that. So we're going to watch the video one more time, but this time I want you to watch it with ears all open and eyes. All right.
In the 1950s, the Dayak people of Borneo, an island in Southeast Asia, were suffering from an outbreak of malaria. So they called the World Health Organization for help. The World Health Organization had a ready-made solution, which was to spray copious amounts of DDT around the island. With the application of DDT, the mosquitoes that carried the malaria were knocked down, and so was the malaria. There were some interesting side effects, though. The first was that the roofs of people's houses began to collapse on their heads. Turns out the DDT not only killed off the malaria-carrying mosquitoes, but it also killed a species of parasitic wasp that had controlled a population of thatch-eating caterpillars. Thatch being what the roofs of the Dayak people's homes were made from. Without the wasps, the caterpillars multiplied and flourished and began munching their way through the villagers' roofs. That was just the beginning. The DDT affected a lot of the island's other insects, which were eaten by the resident population of small lizards called geckos. The biological half-life of DDT is around 8 years, so animals like geckos do not metabolize it very fast. It stays in their system for a long time. Over time, the geckos began to accumulate pretty high levels of DDT, and while they tolerated the DDT very well, the island's resident cats, which dined on the geckos, did not. The cats ate the geckos, and the DDT contained in the geckos killed the cats. With the cats gone, the island's population of rats came out to play. We all know what happens when rats multiply and flourish. Pretty soon, the Dayak people were back on the phone to the World Health Organization, only this time it wasn't malaria that was the problem. It was the plague and the destruction of their grain stores, both of which were caused by the overpopulation of rats. This time, though, the World Health Organization didn't have a ready-made solution and had to invent one. What did they do? They decided to parachute live cats into Borneo. Operation Cat Drop occurred courtesy of the Royal Air Force and eventually stabilized the situation.
All right. Yeah, so I'm going to stop my share for a while. Yeah, so I would like us to, have a discussion. What is going to guide us is, just a moment, please. Yeah. We said, what are the issues in this video? Does anybody, this is the time to unmute yourself and speak. What are the issues in this video? The scope of the issues, what are the positive consequences, negative consequences, indirect positive consequences, and indirect negative consequences. Brother Dodi, is your hands up? Or was up since?
Not on this one. It was, I think I raised my hand.
Okay.
At that time.
Okay, don't worry then. So who wants to go first? Okay, yeah, go ahead, Pastor SMK.
Yeah, first, there was a threat to life. And so they have to come up a drastic measure because there was no time to delay. Delay amounts to increase in the casualties. And so they have to determine to come up with a solution, a quick solution. In the process of preferring a solution, an unexpected outcome resulted, which has to do with the growth of the geckos. And then seeing that in trying to solve a matter, they have fallen into another trap, so to say. They have to devise an indirect method whereby they have to bring in the cards to fight the geckos. And so quickly, as it affected a supposed solution, supposedly a good solution for that matter, then the purpose was, defeated. But in order not to give up, they have to come up with another direct solution. And in this case, they have to parachute cats that will go a long way to stop the further growth of the threat. And so there is the need for us to be proactive and pragmatic in preferring solutions. And when solutions are proffered, we have to do all we can to make sure that it is done and done according to the prescribed solution. That is the points I picked from the video. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you for those highlights. The one thing you mentioned is a threat to life, quick solution, unexpected outcome came, and then, they eventually got an indirect way to deal with the rats by sending cats. Okay, yes, Dodi, hands up. Dodi, you can go ahead and speak before Dr. and Team Fong will speak. Yeah. Go ahead, Dodi. I thought your hands were up. You can unmute yourself if you want to speak.
Yes, my hands are up.
Okay.
My observation or understanding of the video there, first of all, is the outbreak of the malaria as a result of mosquito and insect bites, and then the quick response to eliminate that. I think what they got wrong there was they were supposed to observe the cause of malaria, like you said earlier, the source of malaria. The source of the insect bite or the insect mosquito, where they gather their strength. The approach to eliminate malaria wouldn't have been the solution yet, is to search for the source of malaria, the insect bite or the mosquito. That there must be a plan you don't approach issue without observing the source of the strength source of the occurrence. That is my observation, first of all.
Well, thank you very much for that observation. That, I mean, they should have tried to look at what is the cause of that surge in mosquitoes in that area. You know, it could have helped mitigate the matter. You know, yeah. But I mean, does it mean that they should allow people to die? People are dying. Yeah. Okay. And before we allow, I can see Dr. Tim.
Good evening, everyone, once again.
Yeah.
Okay, my own understanding of that, I don't understand.
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, is that the major issue there, at least I understood the malaria part. I would say that malaria was the major issue they had. And so in a way to solve that, they decided to come up with that insecticide of DOT. And the negative consequence of that insecticide was the collapse of the roofs, the negative effect they had on the roofs. And the other parts we talked about, wall geckos and all that, I didn't really get that part. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, identifying the negative impact there of the DDT was the insects that protect the roof, you know, and you know how solutions can interrelate and interconnect to themselves. Okay, I can see 3 hands. I'll call you by name and this order. We have Joseph, then we will have Sister Confidence, and then we have Godwin Emion. So please, let's go ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir. First, from the video, there was a problem, you know, but there was no careful observation to the root cause of the problem. You know, quick fix is what it is. Quick fix. It doesn't solve the problem. You know, it only fixes the problem. You know, and usually when we use quick fix, there's something also called in system, there's something called serendipity, which is unintended consequence of an action or unintended discovery, you know, within a problem, you know. So yes, they were trying to solve a problem, but they were creating more problems, you know, within the society. So what should have been done from the onset is a careful observation of the problem, identifying the problem and the root cause of the problem. Now, when you address it, now it doesn't multiply itself because what they were busy doing is treating symptoms, you know, and it was causing other, you know, difficult problems for them. It looked as if the problem was solved temporarily, you know, but there was also the problem of serendipity now. It was hitting them, you know, really hard. Now, it makes you labor more than what you should have done. Now, I give an example. You know, I remember there was a time we wanted to carry some cartons. They brought in some goods and they wanted to carry the cartons. And the guy just said, okay, let's get 4 guys to carry the cartons. No, it wasn't about getting 4 guys to carry the carton. Yes, if the 4 guys had carried the carton, they would have started the job earlier. But we sat back and said, no, truly, how many cartons are these? How many cartons can somebody carry in 1 hour? You know, so there was a careful plan for it. And by the time we decided to embark, we discovered that we actually needed just 2 guys who can deliver the job, you know, and it helped us save resources, you know, and we even worked faster, you know. So sometimes carefully sitting down to observe the problem, identifying the root cause and attack the root cause, not just creating a quick fix, you know, for the problem. So quick fix are what it is. You know, they don't solve the problem, they only just fix the problem temporarily. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very insightful input. I'm going to ask you to please type that word either in the chat there. That's serendipity, or what did you call the word? That's the new grammar for me today.
Serendipity.
Okay.
I will type it down.
Thank you so much. That's powerful. You know, when your intention is to solve the problem, but you're creating more problems. That's very, in fact, that's the summary of this whole story there. Thank you for that insight. So over to you, Sister Confidence, then Brother Godwin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Daddy. Good evening, everybody. I think Brother Joseph just spoke my mind, because I was trying to, imagine that they were able to identify their problem, but after identifying their problem, there was no root cause analysis that was carried out to prefer the solution to this problem they have identified, which caused other problems. And at the end of the day, they had other issues. But there's something at the end of it. What I really liked for what they did is, at the end of the day, they came out together as one, and how will I say it? They came out with one voice, which they now said, okay, for us to eradicate this solution, to eradicate this problem, we have to come together with one synergy and attack what is attacking us. And it's not that everybody works in hand, not that some people are aside looking at what they are doing, but everybody came together, which they came up with that Operation Cat Drop. And at the end of it, it ended well for them.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you for that input about the togetherness, trying to focus the issue. The first attempt wasn't a good one, but eventually we were able to settle it. Over to you, Brother Godwin. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't know if I can be heard.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Greetings, everyone, once again. Concerning the video we just watched, what I observed first off was the community had the issues. They contacted the people to help them solve the problem. And the people that should help them solve the problem did not, look into the situation first to know what kind of solution to use to solve the problem. There were very many other options they could have employed, but they did not seek that information first. And when the thing created more problems, they now had to check again what was causing the second problem. There was this venom that was attacking everything. It attacks the roofs, it attacks the cats, it attacks the reptiles and all that. Then they now had outburst of rats. So now how would they solve the outburst of rats in the community? We needed another form of cats that were not infected by that venom or by that virus. And that was what they now implied based on the information they had now gathered this time. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. That's good and a good analysis. Okay, Bro Greatness, and then we'll go back to the slide after you.
Okay, so thank you so much. Good evening, good morning, and all that to everybody. My own is I was told if you can find out the source of every problem, you are halfway solving that particular problem. You will not need to go back to solve this the second time. These people they stood up and then they decided to key into solving the problem of malaria without finding out the cause of whatsoever that is the cause of that particular malaria and how to solve it very well. Assuming they have find out and carry out the research of what to do, they wouldn't have even need to go to, they wouldn't have, first of all, go for the insecticide, which do have all to cause all the lot of the problem. You have got straight to the drop cats and all that, which we're supposed to. I think the information is very important in system building or in developing anything in life. Information is very important. You must sit down first to find out where am I going, because we do say in law that ignorantia juris non excusat. That means ignorant to the law is not an excuse. It will cause a lot of problem if you don't know what to do. If you've not gotten a lot of information before you get into solving any issue, it will land you in double jeopardy. So that's why they get into that problem they got to. Assuming they sat down to find out what to do, they will have gone straight to a drop card, not doing all that has taken a lot of energy and money from them. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for those useful insights, observations on that. On that video. The intention is to kind of help us, analyze things better, and kind of stir up in us system thinking to know that things are interrelated and they interconnect. I'm going to go back to share my screen now and just wait. I share the screen. Okay, there, yeah. So, I mean, the issue clusters, the main issue, like we all rightly identified, was the issue of the upsurge of malaria. And they knew that it was caused by mosquito, but they just stopped at the mosquito. They should have, gone ahead to know that what is causing mosquitoes to suddenly increase in number on that island. Because if they had dug in deeper, they would have known. Maybe the swamp. Since an island, maybe there's more, all this greenhouse effect, water is coming, and then it's now swampy. Swamps is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. That could have done. And with that, if they had addressed the swamps, probably I'm just assuming it's a swamp that caused it. Now, if they have addressed that, it would have stopped the mosquito, because systems thinking makes us understand that everything is a system and belongs to another system. When we played this video among pastors just about a few weeks ago, and it's on the line here, I think it was Bob Vincent that mentioned, and he said that in what do you call it? In NGO, in the NGO sector, there's something they don't do. They don't advise an importing solution. And that's what the World Health Organization, the error they did, and this was 1950s. I'm sure they wouldn't do that today, even though maybe another way they do it now. But I mean, they imported DDT, and that's an imported solution. It's something that is not part of the entire ecosystem of that place. They should have observed, like someone rightly pointed out, try to observe what is causing that surge of mosquitoes and deal with the ecosystem. Because the DDT, as we're going to find out, the DDT, as we will find out, you can see in this in this slide here, what happened is that the DDT eliminated the natural predator for the thatch-eating caterpillar. So the DDT didn't only kill mosquitoes, it killed wasps that feed caterpillar that destroy the roofs. So you can see here, so the DDT killed not only mosquitoes, it killed the wasps. And the wasps, which are like bees, the wasps feed on caterpillars. So since those wasps were dead, the caterpillars began to grow, and the caterpillars ate the roof, and the roofs began to fall down. And another effect was that, with the wasps dying, who fed on the caterpillars, also the wall geckos were also impacted by the DDT, because the DDT impacted the caterpillars, and the wall geckos ate those caterpillars. And when they ate those caterpillars, they had high tolerance for DDT. So the more those caterpillars they ate for food, the more, they could withstand. But though the wall geckos didn't die, the cats who fed on the wall geckos could not tolerate the DDT, so the cats were dying. And when the cats were dying, the mice, I remember when we had mice problem back then in Nigeria, one of the ways someone said, instead of getting this, get a cat. We got a cat, and in 1 week, all the rats disappeared. Now, can you imagine that these cats do not have as high tolerance to DDT like the wall geckos? And as they ate the wall geckos, they died, and the rats became prevalent. And these rats created a plague. They ate all the harvest. And you know how rats can, if rats are everywhere, they are very dirty animals. They brought a lot of disease and outbreak and created another problem. So that's the interconnection that you can see in this direction. There were two path routes. The DDT was directed to the mosquitoes, but indirectly it killed the wasps. That killing of wasps was not a good consequence, because killing the wasps meant that the caterpillars that destroyed the thatch roofs will become multiplied, and that's how roofs were falling. So at the end of the day, people were losing their roofs. More water was coming in. People were, and then also the wall geckos became DDT infested. The cats ate them, and the cats. What happened to the cats? They didn't have high tolerance. They died, and the rats multiplied. But look at it. The solution they now presented was that, look, let's bring in cats. So this wasn't more, bringing cats into that island wasn't like important. They just came to balance the ecosystem because there was a deficiency of cats. That's why that solution canceled the rats. Instead of doing the same problem that they could have said, so let us bring an insecticide and kill the rats again, and they'll go back. That's an imported one. But what they did was that they brought something in the ecosystem that was deficient, which was cats. And that's how the situation was balanced. That's why it's important to understand the structure of a system, know the different components of that system. The cat was the missing link there, and that solved that issue of the abundance of rats. Instead of putting rat poison and creating another, maybe children start eating rat poison and problem is created. So, and that was the error they did with the DDT. Instead of them studying what is causing these mosquitoes and to multiply, and trying to deal with that problem from that axis, as it were. All right, so we can see the byproducts. DDT also killed parasitic wasps, no wasps, caterpillars thrived, caterpillars ate through thatch roofs collapsed. Another byproduct, which is the balancing loop, DDT accumulated in geckos, cats poisoned by eating geckos. DDT eventually killed cats, no cats, rat overpopulation, cats caused plague outbreak. All right, so that's just the overview of the entire story there, So yeah, so and just to buttress because one important element, in system thinking is the fact that it is important that you always think through a matter. And when you are trying to think through a matter, it's always good to have like a think tank group, a group of people that you can, analyze the matter with, analyze the problem with, because Bible says two are better than one. Bible says in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. So, sharpening minds with each other. And one thing about this is that you're going to find people who are constantly against virtually everything. Most of the time we fight those people. We say, oh, you're negative, we want to kick them out. But, as system thinkers, we need to leverage on these people. They call them cave people. They are constantly against virtually everything, and we need to leverage on them because they provide for us, vital information. They will tell you many reasons why things cannot work. And through that, you can find, downstream consequences that can help you eliminate. So once you know those consequences, you can design solutions that can mitigate them. So instead of casting them out and say you are too negative, allow them to spew out, to say the negative, especially at least constructively, because they provide you information, vital information that you will utilize. Those you can utilize in mitigating. For instance, let's say there were key people in that WHO. They will say, that DDT it's very strong. It can kill cats. It can kill this, And if they were in that meeting of brainstorming, that brainstorming meeting, you just okay, we're going to use DDT, but we're going to find a way to eliminate. Or no, we won't use DDT. We'll use this. But we are still going to go ahead. They shouldn't deter us from solving the problem, but we should learn to hug them, as that caption says, hug a key person. People are constantly against virtually everything. Hug a key person mindset, value the variety of opinion and different perspectives. That's one key element in system dynamics. When you're playing, it's important. Hug a key person, the mindset, value a variety of opinion and different perspectives, then recognize difficulties that different perspectives present. So as they present those different perspectives, it gives you ammunition for you begin to see the difficult, because the key person, one of the things they highlight are difficulties. So, you should not become difficulty intolerant, but you should know how to look at difficulties from another perspective. It's the perspective that matters. The fact that there's a challenge does not mean that one should not go ahead. It just prepares yourself. One thing that comes to mind was when the prophet Agabus took the girdle of Paul and said that the person that owns this is going to be bound in Jerusalem. And everybody started telling him, don't go. And Paul said, come on, stop it. This prophecy is not telling me not to go. It's preparing me for what lies ahead. And that's what it's supposed to be. Yes, there's a situation that lies ahead. Like in the case of Joseph, when he interpreted Pharaoh's dream, famine lied ahead. They could have done different things, but that insight, they were able to mitigate things to capture that event and have it under arrest. And Egypt became richer because of famine rather than impoverished. What was designed, or what was naturally designed to impoverish a nation, became a lifting base for the nation, because they were able to mitigate those difficulties and recognize them. And so that's important. Another thing you should do is encourage openness to sustain debate and constructive conflict. Constructive conflict is important while brainstorming and system solution, because as people talk and they stop again, when people talk and they kind of stand against what you're trying to do, it's a way of you find a way of fostering continuous improvement. Then understand psychological factors that affect perceptions. You need to understand the psychological factors that affect perceptions. That's one thing. Again, when people are against something, try and understand it. Look at some people have some psychological factors that affect that kind of behavior, and then also learn to create an expectation of high standards and performance. Use that for high standards and performance. All right. Okay, so we are about coming to the end of this workshop. And so questions quickly. Does anybody want to help us? What did we learn? Why is system dynamics so important? How can we use what we have learned in the future? So I'm going to stop my share now. So does anybody want to see what they have learned? Anybody? Okay, go ahead, Pastor Senke.
Thank you, sir. Few things really struck my mind. As a matter of fact, I have to copy it down immediately. It's about the fundamentals of system dynamics, where you say systems are responsive to its systemness. So it's very key, because systems are really and truly interrelated. You may say that, hey, this policy doesn't affect me. But if you critically and analytically look at it, you find out that it affects you much more than you think that it doesn't affect you. And so we must work together cohesively to be able to achieve a common goal. Then also you say that systems exist in structural and functional hierarchy. This is one major challenge that we have. We don't believe in hierarchy. We don't even believe in structure. Everybody believes that he's a king to himself. So this perception, what does he know that I don't know, is always there. And so you find out that many times people fail to commit to a project, not because they don't want to commit to the project, but the simple fact that they see themselves as too big for that project. Or maybe, let me see what they're going to do. After they fail, they will still come back to me. That mental position, that attitude is not right. And also you mentioned that system dynamics act over multiple time schemes. So these are a couple of things, not to mention systems evolved by direct and rather or indirect actions. So this has really given me a lot of insight that I'm going to start working on, and not discard the king's mentality, but rather to hug it, because this few period that we've taken over, I've seen a lot of cave mentality. And so this time I'm going to hug it and use it to spur myself, encourage myself, nudge myself, urge myself to go all out to achieve the corporate goal of the commission. Thank you, sir.
Very good, thank you. That was very profound. Yeah, and anybody else, I mean, who else, what you learned, what you would like to apply? Some people have not spoken since we've started, not heard people like, so, well, Levi, I've not heard your voice, Joko, not heard your voice, Bumi, yeah, David, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what I learned is that, when a principle or procedure is disrupted, it cracks the system. For instance, when God destroyed everything on earth with flood, if he had not asked Noah to take the animals into the ark, I don't think there will be the process of food production will be complete, because some animals also help to, like butterfly, they help in pollination and all of that. So God still restored the same system that he destroyed. Yes.
That's very powerful. God still restored the system that the flood destroyed. We destroyed with the flood because, and he preserved a subunit of it to replicate itself. And remember what he said in the book of Genesis 1:26. It said, be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, and have dominion. That's a system at work there. That's very good, very powerful insight there. Yes, anyone else? Anybody wants to say something? Yes, the confidence.
Okay. One thing that I really
Okay, your audio, we can't hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. Hello? We can't hear you again.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. I said one thing I learned from this workshop is, one of the points is systems are dynamic on multiple times and scales. From the explanation you made, I was just thinking, okay, there is let me use for instance, an individual, the person you've known for a long period of time, and you see the person changing. You try to imagine, why is this person behaving like this? From what the points you raised, that let's say the people between the age of 20, they have time to attend church activities. And after 20 and above, you see that the rates when they go, the rates they go to church now decreases because they have other activities that had taken over their time. And I also try to, also look at it in a situation where in an organization, they try to move from one system to another, maybe because of innovation. They don't used to do what they used to do before because they want to meet up the maybe clients' demand and every other thing. So I try to put it in my own perspective that in life we have to adapt to the changes as we grow in everything we do. That's one thing I know. Then I have a question.
Okay, you hold your question. We'll come to your questions soon. Let me just get the feedback from. And go ahead, Dixon Sijuku, your hands are up.
Daddy, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry, I've not been audible. I've been in the office and I'm just leaving. I've not gotten home yet. So driving has been, today there was a heavy downfall in Calabar. However, I've learned a lot of things in this class this evening. I've actually been able to analyze my institution and I've seen that there are all areas we need to look into. System is very important. An effective organization, any viable organization should have effective system running. If I looked at it and I'm like, if all systems are interrelated, so imagine if my colleagues had actually done what they were supposed to do, I won't be leaving office by this time. We have to be making calls. So this class is very important to me because there are some keynotes I've done and I'm going to be sending it to you later on. Please just permit me, I'm still on the road.
Okay, no problem.
But I know that this is very important to me. Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you. And before we close, there's a question. Sister Confidence, say you have a question, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, from this lesson, I understand that we have systems, that systems are everywhere and everyone belongs to a system. Now, in a situation where I find myself in a place where the systems are disorganized and it doesn't conform to my personal system, and from the look of things, I cannot change the system. In that situation, what do I do?
Very good question. I mean, if someone finds himself in a system and, and the system is not operating well, what does the person do? Does anybody have anything you want to say? I guess that's your question. You're in a system that is not functioning well, and what can you do? Maybe the question I'd like to ask quickly is that, are you in a position to effect changes in the system, or you're not?
Actually, no, but I'm just, when the class was going on, I was trying to imagine in a situation where this happens, what will be the situation?
Yeah, I mean, one thing, okay, Brother Joseph, hand this up. Go ahead, Brother Joseph.
Okay, sir, thank you, sir. I would also like to hurriedly ask Sister Confidence, you need to help us understand better. Are you talking about systems in terms of structures, or are you talking about values? Because those are two different things. So if it's your personal value that conflicts, with the structures of the organization, is a different ballgame, entirely, because you might not be able to change the personal values of others if there's no corporate values that guides everybody. It might be a bit difficult, but if it has to do with structures, it's adapted because the structure breeds efficiency. So if it has to do with structures, is to be able to create systems that will support the structures of the organization that will invariably give birth, to efficiency. So you need to also help us understand. For me personally, if we're talking about personal values, we're talking about structures of the organization.
Do you want to answer that, Sister Confidence? Because
okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. I'm not talking about values right now. I'm talking about the system.
The way things work there. Okay.
Yes.
So, Brother Joseph, do you want to say something before I say a word and then we'll...
Okay, yes, sir. Now, if it's about the invariably, that means you're talking about structures within the organization.
Yeah.
Now, you're not in a position to create to create changes or create systems. You know, the systems have been created already. But one thing is,
I've lost you, Brother Joseph. We can't hear you, Brother Joseph. If we're going to continue, okay, maybe while he's trying to...
If you make them see the need. Hello?
Hello, yeah, you're going off and on. Your network is unstable.
Okay, yes. Sorry about that. Okay, now, so if you make them see this need, you know, now you have to create your own system that will challenge the status quo. But one of the things you must do is to be able to translate the system you're creating into what will bring value that they can see. Nobody can turn their eyes or reject value completely, you know. So once you are able to translate it into what they can see, into something tangible that translates into positive results for them, somehow somebody will give attention to what you're doing. It might not be immediate, you know, you might not be able to create it immediately because there are some persons who may also want to block, you know, what you're doing or act as a stumbling block to what you're doing, you know. But with time, gradually, you know, the other structure will give way because somehow, you know, it will also be telling on the organization. So if the systems you create, you know, create this change, somehow somebody along the line will see it, but you have to keep drumming it, you have to keep pushing it because you are the proponent of it, you know. So they may not accept it immediately, but you have to keep drumming it, you have to keep emphasizing it, you have to really keep re-echoing it, you know, for that desired change. Thank you.
That's right. And just to add, you know, one thing is that, you know, one thing about system thinkers is the culture of humility, the way it's presented. You know, even as someone who is under someone, you know, there's a way you present, you know, you can present in such a way that you sound superior or better than the person, and the person is going to resist it. But if you have a very humble approach, you know, open to learning, and you hug the key people who are constantly against virtually everything in the process, you know, you'll be able to mitigate a way out, you know, and, you know, devise a system, you know, devise a way where what you're suggesting rather can be implemented or adopted by your leaders or by the organization itself, you know. So, and again, we must remember that we're faith people too. There's some things you can press through, you know, like Esther said, you know, look, the system is that nobody goes to see the king without being invited. But again, you could see that in that kind of case, she was led otherwise to go ahead, and that's pulled through. Though I don't advocate that because that looked like breaking the law. She could have died. You have to really be sure that God is the one leading you there to do such things, you know. But what we're trying to say is that you have to be ready to bear the risk, there to be different, there to remain steadfast. And it's possible. I'll tell people that you don't have to be on top to lead. You can lead from the middle. You can lead even from behind. It depends on your attitude, your approach, wisdom, and language that you use and tone. Yeah. Pastor Senke, you want to say something?
Thank you, sir. A quick one. This is where the ability to manage your boss comes in. The ability to manage your boss. If you are not in a position to influence things in an organization, try as much as you can to understand the point or position of your boss. Now, when you do that, try to create an image or picture of his views, his standpoint, and then try to stand on another angle to see another side that you can step in and do something about the situation. If you bring up an idea that is totally different from his perceived approach to solve that matter is going to backfire. He will resist it. But if you are able to stand on the same point where he's standing, but see from another angle, if you can take a view from another angle, he will quickly buy into your idea. Probably he has not been able to stand on that particular point to see it that way. So he will be free to walk with you, to share his fears and his doubts with you. But if you are bringing a totally different idea, he will resist it. So the ability to manage our boss or bosses in this case will help us to step in and influence things with him, not as a different person, with him, because it must be with him. And when that is done, we must learn to give him the credit that he is the one that did it. If he has not given you the opportunity, it would not have been possible. So still return the credit to him. Don't take it that the idea came to you. Let him understand that the whole thought, the whole plan, the whole setup, the whole method, the whole approach actually came from him. So that's what I have to say about this.
All right. Thank you very much. You know, when pastors speak, they would keep taking the podium. Amen. All right, so we're going to, I have a fantastic comment by David Emmanuel. It says, where there's a crack in the system, follow hierarchy and good attitude to send the message to the top. And even when you receive negative energy from the people in the system, keep pressing on without rebelling. Note, identifying cracks or dangers in the system enhances promotion. That is very powerful. You know, so we must never think that we cannot effect change from the middle, from the center, or from behind. You can. It depends on attitude. It depends on perspective, and that's very important. Yeah. So I want to begin to draw the curtains in this workshop today. I want to thank you all. You still have one more assignment. You know, you all had attachments to either your email or to WhatsApp. Please fill that form up. Use the word if you can print. I need it by tomorrow, please, latest. If you can do it now, after, just do it and send it to me. You know, fill that evaluation report form and, you know, send it to me either to WhatsApp or through my emails as I put in the WhatsApp that I send to everyone and those who receive emails. And I want to thank us all. And in time, I hope it was worth your while. I didn't know it was going to spend up to 2 hours like this. You know, I was projecting 1 hour 45 minutes, but I hope it was worthwhile. And I hope to be doing these things from time to time, maybe definitely on different subjects, sometimes on the same thing, because systems, like you can see, if there's anything you should go home with is that systems, you know, are function of the structure. They behave according to their structure. If you want to change the way a system behaves, then change the structure, either the structure as per components of policies and procedures. Just change it. If you want Nigeria to change, we have to change the structure. The existing political structure is not going to work. You know, I mean, if it's a corrupt structure, it's going to maintain corruption. That's why, just a simple example. You know, Buhari was sold to Nigeria as a man of integrity, but it was produced by a corrupt system. He could do little or nothing, even if he intended to do so. Good intentions, you know, come out differently because the structure, you know, says things fall apart, this, you know, and the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the land because the center cannot, there's no structure. You know, if anybody is going to make a change in Nigeria, the person has to come with structure. Structural design, change the structure, the construct, beginning from the ideology of people, thinking, procedures, values. We have an issue of value system, you know, and that's very important. So I want to thank you all. God bless you all. The Lord increase you. The Lord stand with you. God bless you. You know, so please remember to send in that form, the evaluation form, between now and tomorrow. I need it to complete this. Thank you again. And let's just share a short word of prayer. Father, we thank you because you are the source of understanding and illumination Father, the insights that we have received, Lord, we don't just want them to pass through our hearts and minds. Help us to know how to apply them so that we can become system builders like you are. When you created the earth, you set systems in motion. Father, because when we know how to set systems, we build effective organization. And when our organization become effective, we can truly rest because the stress is taken out when we become effective system developers. Thank you. We give you praise. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your evening. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Daddy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Can we have this material, sir?
Yeah, what I would do is that if you send in before you go, two things. One thing, send in the evaluation report. I will get the slides across next week and certificate of participation. The certificate of participation will be virtual because I'm not there to give you physical. I will give you an e-document that you can print out and keep, so that is it. So two things, I'll get the materials across next week, and then also the certificate of participation, but you have to send in your evaluation timely by tomorrow. If you don't, then you won't get certificate of participation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pastor. I was actually going to ask about how we can get the material.
So you get the material to next week before Wednesday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
More of this workshop should be coming on. More of this workshop should be regular, sir.
It will be coming up.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
As we are learning, we are teaching other people.
There's one that will come next week or within the week. Just look out for it.
Wow, that's great.
Okay, sir.
All right.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.